One viewer says even the worship team denied me. Coming up next on Pastor Bob's Coffee Break. It is well with my soul. One of my favorite hymns of the faith. Great mug as well. Still having a little bit of hardcore coffee this morning. 2 days in a row. Love this coffee. And it's our strongest blend. Strong but smooth, not bitter. And great blend. You'll enjoy that. If you like something a little lighter, of course, we have the melodic blend, a little lighter, but same great smooth coffee. That, all of our mugs, all of our t-shirts, our posters, right here. We are metal, we are family.com. Great question today, and it's a little long. Stick with me, dear Pastor Bob. I've been a born-again believer of Jesus for 34 years. And since my conversion, I've been a member of many worship teams as a drummer. And through difficult experiences, I've always been encouraged by pastors and mentors and counselors to continue to worship God. And drumming was always one of those venues. These past 2 years, my wife and I have had a very challenging 2 years, and last year was the hardest for both of us. I went to the very church where my wife and I were married and sought grace and understanding in hopes that the worship pastor would understand and let me on the worship team. I was denied. He said my family was not in order. In his words, he took the worship team very seriously. Since going to church as a congregant, people who have known me kept asking me, why am I not on stage drumming? And it was excruciating. I decided to leave for another church. This other church was welcoming, and I was taken on board. It's what I love to do, and I just don't want the gift to be squandered. Since I left this church, no pastor of the church has called me and asked how I've been or how I'm doing. It saddens me to think that the very church that I was part of for over 20 years has kind of left me to hang. But I figured it wasn't worth going to this church feeling angry all the time. I feel the old church is self-righteous and completely lacks love and grace. They say they do, but they don't. I figured the church is run by well-meaning but young people. Tell me, what else could I have done? I figured I would not say anything at all. It's my business and no one else's. Well, it's a difficult situation. Folks, worship is such a unique thing, such an important thing. And the spirit of worship is not something that you rehearse, it's something that you are. It is actually your worship to God directly, and other people are led to that worship by your example. That really is basically worship. It's not a show. It's taking who you are, how you feel, what you experience in your relationship with the Lord, and using it in worship and adoration of Him and praise. But one of the qualifications that I look for in worship is brokenness. Yeah. Because there are a lot of people that are very headstrong until they're broken, until they get to that place where there's nowhere else they can go but to God. You know, the disciples said, Lord, where else would we go? You're the one that has eternal life. I can't leave you. I've learned that you are my source. We echo that. So I have a question for worship people, and I've been very fortunate to have just the best for so many years. But the question is this: can they lead in worship? Are they able to lead in worship? So you either lead with your brokenness, you lead with your broken and contrite heart, you lead in your celebration of worship, or you lead in a little different way. You're fighting God. You're involved with things that maybe you shouldn't be doing, and you're kind of being a little obstinate and not listening to the Lord. And if that's the situation, no matter what it is, it's not a great time for you to lead in worship, because worship is you presenting your example. Does that mean you have to be perfect? No. Does that mean you have to be sinless? No, except in the eyes of God, which means you're a Christian. It does mean, though, that your heart has to be right. And you can't be fighting with God and a worship leader at the same time, or even in worship. You need to be this person who can communicate your love for God to Him with other people following along. That's really important. I want to turn to Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. And he says, I appeal to you, therefore, brethren, and beg of you, in view of all the mercies of God, to make a decisive dedication of your bodies, presenting all your members and faculties as a living sacrifice. Gosh, is that a great picture of worship? Yeah. As a living sacrifice, holy, devoted, consecrated, and well-pleasing to God, which is your reasonable, rational, intelligent service and spiritual worship. Do not be conformed to this world, this age, fashioned after and adapted to its external, superficial customs, but be transformed, be changed by the entire renewal of your mind, by its new ideals, by its new attitude, so that you may prove for yourself what is the good and acceptable and perfect will of God, even the thing which is good and acceptable and perfect in His sight for you. So folks, take out Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Take it out when you're analyzing who ought to be leading in worship, because this is it. This is the heart of a worshiper. This is the heart of a worship leader or a worship team. This is what it's all about. Folks, don't forget, you are blessed. So go and be a blessing.